snap.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Youth Ministry Booster podcast in Nashville. Sorry everybody, we need to let's have a moment. Okay. We have been without Chad for a few weeks, and I am nervous. We haven't seen him, we haven't heard from him, so I thought, man, maybe in his new role, he's just spending a lot of time in Nashville, so I thought, why not bring the podcast to Nashville, look for Chad. Chad's not here, but even better, our friend Amanda's here. Hey, Amanda.
Hello. I feel like a disappointment.
No,
You're like, and I came to Nashville, and he still was here. We'll settle.
But Amanda's even better. Amanda Mejias, welcome to the Booster Podcast. Glad to have you today.
Thank you.
Thanks for filling in for Chad again. Yay. Chadcation continues. But hey, friend, we're excited to have you. We're recording live in Nashville today, which is fun.
I know. It's so fun.
It's fun to hang out and be here. And same white walls, though, the white brick, it haunts. But Amanda, tell us a little bit where you think Chad is. You know Chad. He's on our team.
I know.
He's been gone for like 6 weeks now. Like, where do you think Chad is?
I mean, surely it's not a sabbatical.
Ooh, a sabbatical that he didn't tell anybody? Oh, I don't know if that works out like he wants it to.
Disappeared. Well, Chad was on a vacation.
Yes.
There's only one place that Chad vacations.
Ooh, yes.
And it's on a boat.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know.
Man loves a boat.
I don't know what ocean or body of water Chad's
Yes.
in, but my guess is he's
Let's
on
plan
a
it
boat
for
somewhere.
him. If he's gone for this many weeks, what body of water do you think that Chad Higgins is in?
The Mediterranean.
The Mediterranean.
For
Yes.
sure.
Oh, good. The end of summer sail. Yeah, he got it. That's right. Does Carnival Cruise do Mediterranean cruises?
I bet the Royal Caribbean.
I bet he's
So,
doing
like,
research.
step up.
That's it. He's doing research.
Carnival's too below.
That's
Chad.
right. I don't know. Chad likes to party. He's here to party. So who knows? But Amanda, we're glad to have you on the podcast today because we're going to learn more about you, and we're going to talk about wisdom in ministry. I think the fall season is always kind of a introspective season that way. And so, friend, you have served in ministry for a number of years now on our team for the last... Five and a half years. Tell the folks at home, Amanda Mejias, how in the world did you end up at LifeWay?
That's always a great question because sometimes I'm like, I don't know how I got here.
Why youth ministry? Of all the things in the world, why youth ministry?
I know. So I came from West Virginia, born and raised. Is kind of where I spent most of my life. Grew up at the same church.
The VA? The West VA or the VA?
The East VA. We are like East Coast.
Is that another state?
It feels like it sometimes.
Okay, yeah. Because that's like beachside, right?
Yeah. We're like right between like Williamsburg and Virginia Beach. So grew up going to Jamestown.
History and the beach. Oh, yes. Very
every
esteemed.
field trip.
Oh, yes.
The colonial.
This is the history of our country. Yes.
So I grew up there, grew up at the same church, and got to college, and every time I feel like I tried to like leave and like go to another school or have big plans, the Lord was like, nope, you're going to stay right here. And served at my home church really as soon as I could legally, like 16.
She's a year removed. Call her in.
Right. But by the time
like
I got
a SWAT team strike, like move.
They're like, what position can we just find?
Offload,
And so I started serving with our recreation ministry. That was kind of my
God bless
jump start.
Yes,
and
recreation
so
ministry.
Softball.
Shout out to the recreation ministers that are planning games ad nauseum for everyone. Amen.
Yes,
there's degrees in that. Did you know that? That's wild.
I believe it. And also there's student pastors who I know who plan full upward programs.
Oh yeah.
So like
on top of everything else.
On top of everything. I was like, how did you get recruited?
That's a lot of clipboards to carry. It's a lot of whistles, a lot of clipboards.
It's so much.
Yeah. So recreation, like, are you talking like basketball leagues, open
leagues,
gyms?
Yes.
Okay, classes,
adult softball
fitness.
was like a big thing. We did something called Seat to the Street.
Seat to the Street?
Yes.
Say more. Say more for this church campaign.
Clearly, I am not the most athletic person, but we would do this like training, especially in January. Every like New Year was like getting people walking.
Okay.
And so we were in a larger church, and we had a setup where we had like the track around the gym.
Yes, like silver sneakers.
And so we would just like help track people's walking.
Okay.
And then like after like 8 weeks, we'd host a 5K. And the program was called Seat to the Street. But my favorite was when...
So it was like, instead of couch to 5K, Seat to the Street, get your booties up off them pews.
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
My favorite, though, was when we either had bad weather or something like that, and they wanted to mix up the area. there was a space around the worship center where you could walk inside the church.
Oh, okay.
And 7 laps around the worship center was a mile.
Hold on. Wait. The weather gets bad. Everybody moves inside and literally walks 7 times around.
7 times.
Walls of Jericho are coming down.
We would say, like, don't blow your trumpets. This is
Keep
not.
the horns at the ready. Yeah.
So
Can you imagine? Like, I'd hate to imagine disaster for anyone, but like on one of those days, if there was an accidental like roof collapse at the church,
I know.
Scripture reimagined. It just happened right there.
Would have been.
Did you have any pastors named Joshua on staff, or was that like forbidden?
No.
Okay, that's smart.
Interesting, right?
Smart. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so that's where I really got my start. Fell in love with recreation ministry, and really then fell in love with camp ministry.
Yeah.
Which is how I first got connected with LifeWay.
Active people loving Jesus is pretty enticing. Yeah. People are excited. Yeah.
So did Center Kid camps for 3 summers to serve kids ministry.
Shout out to our CK friends.
I know.
Yeah.
And
Were you
really,
ever Peach?
Huh?
Were you ever Peach?
I was never Peach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We'll figure out who Peach is one day. If you don't know, it's fine. If you're a CK person, if you know, you know.
You know,
Yeah.
if you know, you
We'll
know.
figure out who Peach is. Yeah.
So
The
did
legend continues.
Center Kid for 3 years. That's how I met my husband. Was
Okay.
through Center
Camp
Kid.
Love?
We are at camp.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. We have the coffee poured. We have the table. Let's dish. All right. Camp Love. Did y'all date while both on sponsors, or did you wait till the very end?
We waited till the end. And I will give you the quote.
Rule followers. Fine.
I was. There's a whole lot of story there. But the end of the summer, I'll give you the one-liner that sealed the deal. Brandon.
His one-liner, your one-liner.
They're playing Gaga Ball, right?
Okay.
Because I mean, what do you do at camp other than play Gaga Ball? And someone came up to me and they're like, "Brandon wants to talk to you. He's going to come up to you. Go with him."
These students are other staffers.
This is other staffers.
Okay,
So like
okay.
you knew it was serious, and I just freaked out and just immediately.
So it wasn't like students that were like shipping you or whatever. This is like other staffers like, hey,
he's talking. This is
It's
happening now.
Love it.
And I just remember freaking out and just like booking it. Like I just was too nervous, and so I just started walking. Didn't even like
to him
wait.
or away?
Away from him.
Oh, okay.
Well, next thing I know, he's like
conflict avoidant.
He's like running up next to me, and he's like, "Hey, so I've been wanting to tell you this last week of the summer.
Yeah.
This is our last weekend camp."
Countdown clock is kicking.
And he said, "I can't let a woman like you walk into my life and watch you walk away." So, seal that deal.
Take notes, listeners. Yeah, that's how you close a deal at the end of camp.
It's true. So
yeah.
11 years and 2 kids later,
wow.
here we are.
Here we are. Congratulations. Well, he's a cutie too. We love Brandon. Yeah. So okay.
Left Central Kid. That was my last summer.
Camp's a blessing for you.
Camp was great.
10 out of 10 would recommend.
I know.
Yeah.
And I truly thought I was going to do camp, recreation ministry.
Yeah.
But that's really where I fell in love with curriculum and Bible studies.
Yeah.
And where I feel like God kind of shaped my desire to go to seminary one day.
Yeah.
And so imagine my surprise when I got a call from the church and they're like, "Hey, we're opening this like multi-site campus. We'd love for you to be the admin."
Oh.
And I was like, "No, thank you."
Yeah. But it's a weird
That's
sell.
That was like not really my plan.
How would you like to administrate between multiple locations?
Yeah. I'm over here just doing like hands-on ministry and
with the people.
Right.
From the seat to the street.
I'm thinking I'm about to go off to, college and get to do ministry school.
Study and do.
And the Lord kind of changed my plans and started off as an admin. I was very quickly promoted as a ministry assistant.
Oh, good. Oh, yes.
So I got to serve our staff, which was just
title improvement. Always good. Yeah, that's good.
So I got to serve our team of 7.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of kids ministry, did a lot of student ministry.
So a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. Our hospitality ministry was like my baby. So like loving my volunteers and my old man parking team that ate breakfast together every Sunday morning.
Okay.
I love. They were my people, 70 and older.
In my church growing up, it was the mowing crew. Thursday they would all like go mow before it got too hot. Then they would have like donuts or breakfast together, and I was like, "Stop it!
I know
this is small groups. I don't care who you are. Count it. Add it to the ministry clock."
100%. So I fell in love just with the local church, and at the end of the day, like I knew that like my heart though was for like church staff. And I was like, if I could just
to serve not a church, but to serve the church.
The church,
yes.
capital C, and to love on church leaders, whatever their role looked like. But I had just a natural bent towards student ministry.
It's the most fun. It's
so fun.
Always has been, always will be the most fun.
And I loved our youth pastors that we got to work with. I worked closely with them and camp, and that was kind of like my baby, getting to help plan student camp. And
so a little bit of everything, all the way through.
And meanwhile, I'm doing seminary and freshly married, and right when I thought that I was going to wrap up seminary and, apply for
whatever's next.
Find out we're pregnant with Blakely, which was not in my original, 5-year plan. And it was the best plan. But I'm thinking, I'm going to be an admin forever, which is fine. This is just not what I thought. And I was 28 weeks pregnant when a editor position at for Gospel Project for Students opened up here at LifeWay. And applied for that role, saying like, I'm not moving at 28 weeks pregnant. Like, this is August. I'm doing
a lot of life happening.
But good interview experience. I could get closer to working on Bible studies and curriculum, and like that's where my heart is for, and the ministry leader. So it was like one step closer. Well, I only had like one interview, and I remember when I applied, my husband was like, "So when do you think you would actually like take this job realistically?" And I was like,
"He's like laying out the like logistics. He's like, that's cool career like experience, but like, what's the plan?"
I
love it. I love that your husband, the carpenter, like has like the plan.
I know. And mind you, he was a pastor at the time. He was the associate worship pastor on our staff, and so a move for me would be a big move for both of us. And I remember it was August, and I was like, well, I mean, the soonest I'd move is like the baby would need to be at least 3 months old. And that would be even crazy. And no one's going to wait for me from August to February. Well, that was the year that the LifeWay stores all shut down. Rest in peace. And they kind of put a hiring freeze on jobs.
On everything,
So I didn't really hear back except like one interview.
It was a good talk. We will be back with you.
Exactly.
We don't know when, but eventually.
So January rolled around. The process picked up quickly, and they're like, can you start in February? And so me and my husband left our 2 full-time ministry jobs and moved to Nashville with our 2.5-month-old, and it was crazy. And but fell in love with LifeWay. Loved getting to work on Gospel Project, and 6 months after that, our girls ministry specialist, Mary Margaret West, who I love, she walked away for a new position or to move with her husband, and I was the new girl, and they're like, hey, do you think you can like manage?
How about more content editing?
Right.
How about more things?
Like, can you manage the emails for now? And I'm like, okay, we could do that. And honestly, just like happy to serve. And then a few months after that, my precious boss at the time, he was like, listen, if I leave you as an editor, he said, I'm pretty sure you're going to shrivel up and not stay. He said, you have a heart for people, and I want to see that in action. He's like, have you ever thought about girls ministry? And I was like, I'm going to pass on that one, but thank you. I mean, when we were on church staff, like we had like teen guys over our house every Saturday night, like that were like in the youth band that would play with
Brandon and the boys.
Exactly. So like it was girls ministry was like the farthest thing. I'm like, I'm not an event planner. I don't wear pink. Like, I don't want to talk about purity. And
your handbags are remarkably small.
I don't even know if I had a purse at that point.
More of a backpack than a purse.
Right. And so I just felt like the wrong person for the job. But obviously, when you start asking the Lord what does He want, there's
be surprised by
certain
what
plans.
might be the answer.
And so I stepped into a girls ministry specialist role in February of 2020. Right when no one knew what girls ministry looked like. Well, I guess March 2020 was when everything kind of flipped upside down. Church
any
world.
Of ministry was going to look like.
So here I am on these Zoom calls.
A chance to reimagine all of it.
And here I'm on these Zoom calls thinking that I'm coming to like learn from them to how to do girls ministry. And so here I am on a Zoom call with these amazing I get like emotional like thinking about these women, and I'm like, cool, I'm just gonna sit back, and they're like, hey Amanda, do you want to like chime in here?
What do you want to share?
And I'm like, I have nothing to offer you, but the Lord was kind, and just that's where I feel like my calling just became very clear, is that I'm not here to like be the smartest person around the table, but I'm here to shepherd and love these women who are just like, we're lost, we're hurting, we're uncertain, and getting to look at them and saying like, you're not alone, and I'm going to be here, but look at these other women and bringing them together, and that's what I've kind of done for the past 4 years now, is bringing women together in student ministry, whether they're a girls minister or youth minister, whatever their title may be, and to help them find like their place in their community with one another.
Love it. Well, and that's kind of some of the things we're going to talk about today. Is so this is a unique episode for us. We have team chat all the time, but one of the things that's unique for our team that we kind of tease about is that we're like ministers for ministry leaders, that we're pastors for youth pastors. We're students of student ministry, girls ministry. And so one of the things I just wanted to share with our crew, with our listeners, is just what are some of the things that you've been hearing or learning along the way. We talk about it all the time, whether it's online in a community like Booster or a network coffee or a big group text. Youth ministry leaders are always asking like the idea, the how did you do it, how do you face challenges, like even the dangerous waters of like Facebook wisdom are like out there, because we all want to learn from what others are doing. And that's one of the, I think, the gifts that we've had is not that we are the experts, but we're super informed. Like I feel like I have like the aggregate of like, I don't know if this is right, but here's what I'm hearing.
Here's what everyone's been saying.
Everybody's doing it this way. And so I just wanted you to, for our crew, to share a little bit of like, what are some of the things that you've heard that either might be really encouraging or insightful, or maybe even like reaffirming. Like I feel like sometimes we can hear like some things online, like social media is really good at distorting like the outliers, when the core of the thing might be far more consistent or reliable than we realized. And so I know that for one of the conversations that we've had both in this next season of ministry is just the importance of keeping the questions really specific to where the students are at today. I think it can be really easy to get absorbed in like generational talk, right? Like everything's like Gen Z this or Gen Alpha that. And it's like, yeah, but what about like Tommy and Stephanie? Like what are like their big questions? Because that's something that you as their youth ministry leader can be best to help answer more than just the big research. And so even in that like aggregate of like all the things that we're hearing, how would you redirect some of those things that you've heard to a youth worker, minister, listener?
Yeah. I've learned a lot from just listening to girls ministers. I think there's a whole lesson there of just being willing to listen and not just showing up and being like, I'm the smartest person in the room, let me tell you. But being willing to hear like what
I have
other
the one size fits all.
And I think that is one of the things I've learned, especially with girls ministry, is that like, you know, I have a group text of 150 girls ministers or women doing girls ministry in different ways, and none of them there's no one size fits all to girls ministry. And I think that is the key to youth ministry. But what I've learned from them is that they still want collaboration. So it's like, you know, they're not going to all have the same mega girls weekend event retreat away with a great famous speaker that they pay, you know, thousands of dollars for. But what they're all looking for is like, hey, what topics are your girls needing? Or, hey, my girls are struggling with this. What resources do you have for parents? Or, hey, do you have a budget proposal that I can adapt for, you know, my ministry? Or, you know, what are some gift ideas for leaders? Like, and it's just this, I think a lot of times people assume that girls are like catty or dramatic or like there's like the spirit of competition. And what I have learned more and more in the space specifically with women in youth ministry is that like there is so much like the spirit of celebration with one another. Like championing one another, not like, you know, well, our ministry does this and our ministry does that. Like, it's more of like, how do I come alongside you and make you feel seen and valued? And part of that may be just because oftentimes the women are like, maybe if you have a team of people, there may usually be like one female on staff. There may be more men, not all the time, but
sometimes.
And so for them to get to be around any kind of other women in the space, it's like, let me take this chance not to compete with you or to compare to you, but how can I champion you? How can I...
Well, and I think that's one of the things, I mean, we've said it before on the podcast, nobody understands youth ministry better than other youth ministry leaders. Like, nobody understands what you're going through better than this community, and that's why it breaks my heart when it starts to get maybe competitive or comparative. And I think the word that we talk about a lot on our team that people will probably get sick of in a few months, but we love it, is collaborative. And I think exactly what you're sharing, like, it is someone who is willing to be open-hearted enough to ask, but then kind enough to champion or celebrate. Because that's one of the things that like comparison or competition can't do is cheer for each other. And I think that's one of the things that we've got to be really good about, because if everything else, again, big trends that we're talking about are true, there is a shrinking number of folks that are willing to consistently and faithfully do this thing called youth ministry. So the last thing that we'd want to do is start cutting out other folks, or like dividing up who's with us and who's against us, because there's already too many other challenges. And so one of the things that we cannot say enough is you need people that are you trust enough that you're willing to share openly enough that will cheer for you and maybe even like critique or challenge you when it is the like, I think I should have this big mega weekend. The simple questions sometimes that are like, why? Yeah. Why do you think you need to do that? Like how many, like there's so much like online like Facebook group wisdom of like, I'm gonna do this thing, and everybody's like, do it, and then book me to speak at it, and it's like, well, hold on, but like, is that the thing that we really need? Like, what is the thing behind the thing? And I think that's one of the wise pieces. The more that we do this, is learning to ask each other, man, I hear what you're concerned about. Like, I hear the thing that you like are wanting to try or do. The idea. Youth ministry is prolific for coming up with ideas, but like, what is the heart concern that's like really motivating the idea? Like, it's.
We have our His Glory Her Good podcast. And
check it out, available on Spotify, podcast, or YouTube.
YouTube,
got it. The tubes, yeah.
Anyway, but it's really
kids,
interesting watching like the listen ratings or whatever of just like which episode topics are more popular.
Sure.
We try to like label them very straightforward.
Right.
Like there's no guessing what this
episode is. What it is,
right?
It's empathy, darn it, yeah.
And you were thinking, like, I remember when we started, we're like, well, every season we want to hit like on a hot topic, like, girls' anxiety or gender identity or body, shaming, whatever it is. Like, we were like, these are the topics.
These are the ones, the biggies, This
is what everybody wants to talk about. And those are our lowest rating ones. The ones that are the highest rating are the ones that talk about their value and what they're doing. Yeah. And it's the why. Okay. So it's not the how or the what. Yeah. It's the why.
The culture. Yeah.
It's the why am I here? Yeah. Or what am I going to be doing a year from now? And why do I stick this out when it gets hard?
It's why we always ask like the story of like how you got into it. Because again, of all the things, that calling story of what would draw you in because of who would draw you in is such a powerful connective element. More than like, oh, well, you've done this or you're at that church. I always just want to know, how did you get started? Yeah. Why is this a thing? And why are you still doing it? And that why, like, if you don't have that identified, that is something that you should have like written or get Nathan to wood carve it or whatever. Have you got to have it near and dear. Like Karen, my wife Karen, an English teacher, always talks about treasure chests. So we each have like little tote boxes of like notes or printed off emails precious. Of things that remind us the things that we forget.
I love that.
And I think for so much of what ministry is building a better memory. And like some of the things that you've learned along the way. Like I love hearing your story of like, we did a little bit of everything here, and then when you got to LifeWay, you started doing a little bit more of everything, and it was that ability to shift and multi-tool into what was needed that helped shape it.
Because the why is the same. Yeah. And so, like, the how...
More than the role, more than the title.
Right. It's the why and the heart, and I think that's what connects us. And if we can get past the... I do it this way, or I do this way, or my idea is better. And we just get back to why. We have a lot more in common because we just want to see kids know Jesus, right?
Well, so that's one of the things for folks that have been listening for a long time. They know this story. I was networking youth workers like as part of my very first ministry job because I was lonely. Like that Tuesday afternoons at 2, there was a standing appointment at a certain Starbucks in Northwest Oklahoma City that we just kept sending group texts out to folks like, man, if Tuesday morning staff meeting was long or after your campus visits, like that was the thing. It was just like getting the folks together was true. It was then, it was now, it probably will be always like the true thing of it. And it may look differently from North Carolina to Oklahoma to LifeWay or whatever, but like the truthfulness of the why, if you can identify that, then you can weather the challenges or the traditions or even the changes of where you might serve and do. And so where's your why at now? Like, let's say more of you identified it and living into it. Where are you at now? I know.
I do feel like my why. I'm gonna make a confession here on the podcast. First heard,
recorded.
But like deciding like what is my why of like why am I here at LifeWay now? I think I know that. Yeah. But why am I gonna still be here 5 years from now? Or so now I'm like looking up. Do I go to seminary? Do I go to business school? Like what is the why? And the reality is that I would say my personal why is still the same that it was. Yeah. It's to like love and lead and minister to church leaders. And so I don't know what that's going to look like 5 years from now, but if my why can stay the same, like, my role may look different or it may not. I could do what I'm doing now forever and be totally content and happy.
Well, that's a question for you, for folks listening. Amanda, thank you for chatting today and talking about ministry. I know that for a lot of folks that do know you, maybe are connected either through LifeWay Girls Instagram or your personal Instagram that we can link and stuff below. But we'll even share for the group text if folks want to get connected with you for women in ministry that are serving and looking for connection in the group text. We're excited for this next season of Youth Ministry Booster, but also the continuing conversations to remind and encourage, to connect and to collaborate, because that's what we get to do. So any last words of wisdom for our folks for out the door?
Oh man, I would just say continue find those people to celebrate and champion. Those are the people that are going to be in it with you the longest.
That's it. That's right. All right, friends, we'll see you back next week on an episode of the Youth Ministry Booster podcast with hopefully Chad or maybe more clues he might be. So we'll see you then.